So one of the things they say is no one else is working as hard or as long hours as my partner is out there. And I'll see 3 boys on a farm and each of their wives are saying this. Is the business going to be able to afford to pay out off-farm family members? So there does start to be animosity at times between the spouses of those on farm and the siblings of their husband or wife. And that is through no fault of their own, but that is often as a result of a lack of clarity, and they think that there's going to be, the off-farm family members are going to be threatening their security. Can the business afford to provide housing for us all? We're not going to be able to survive on this salary forever. It's a really scary concept. Most women, and I'm talking women as the in-law here, because predominantly they are still. They're not all, but predominantly they are still. They're often very well educated, and some of them have been earning well from whence they came. Suddenly they marry or fall in love with some person who is working in a family business, which is the back of whoop-whoop. And that was certainly my experience. I remember thinking, oh dear, what's coming next? And my husband's taxable income that year was $11,000. And I nearly died. I thought, how dumb am I? I didn't even realise. So these are concerns they have because they can't see and they have no control over how that might be going to change. Is the business going to pay for our children's education? When we live in these isolated places, it actually is an enormous impost on a family business or personal wealth to actually pay for this education. What happens to me if something happens to my partner? That's that security factor. And why should any in-law actually have a fear around that when it is so easily addressed? I cannot understand why we ever come across a family where this is the case. An insurance policy, for instance, is so easy to obtain, it is cheap to pay, and would provide that security for that person. When I was first married 22, 23 years ago, I remember asking my father-in-law, this was prior to having our children, and my husband was involved in partnership with his parents and brother. And I said to my father-in-law, if something happened to Rod, would you want me as your business partner? Well, you should have seen him squirm. Where do I dodge now? Will I get in a hole? He wanted to say, actually, no, now you come and ask the question. But he felt he couldn't, so it took a little bit of work to get there. So I helped him out and said, actually, I take it from this response that the answer is no. I would have thought it would be. What have I got to contribute to your business right now? And my aspirations would not have been to stay there. And I'm not telling you this is how you are. I'm just giving you an example. My aspiration would not have been to stay in the family farm. I would have gone back to the city and been employed and worked my way forward in my own way. Some years down the track with children, it would need to be revisited. Would I then want to maintain a stake for those children? Would I have the capacity to maintain that stake, or would somebody else be trustee for that stake? Do you see what I'm saying? If I have no capacity to help manage an agricultural enterprise, then why should I ever be a stakeholder other than at maybe a trusteeship or ownership level? Do you understand what I'm saying? We have to have these questions because we can end up in business with people who really are not our chosen business partners. And classic example was a family I worked with in Sydney where there were 2 brothers who owned a very, very successful restaurant. A string of them. One brother died. Immediately, the surviving spouse of that brother became the business partner of the other. Within 18 months, that business was defunct. And that can happen in agriculture. But what happens in agriculture too is we often see these women and men, women more likely, they have not been provided for sensibly and are often treated appallingly. You know, the whole, we hear the parents saying, you'll be all right, dear. We'll look after you, dear. Well, watch that space whenever she takes the boyfriend. So really we need to actually ask these questions, and again, upfront and early, and review them. That's a big elephant that's creating a lot of issues in agriculture, and it's totally unnecessary.